Shotguns and shotguns.
First of all, we want to say thanks to the Coogee Chakalia family, the Mayasa family, for inviting us to this 100 Years in the Whirlwind conference. Because this is like one of the, I guess it will definitely set a standard, especially during these times we're going through now. This is like a one-of-a-kind thing. So it may not ever even happen like this again. So we appreciate you even thinking about us to even do this sort of thing. Y'all want to say something, J-Mo? Y'all good?
Oh yeah, no, I was waiting on you, but yeah, definitely appreciate it. You know, like you said, this is the centennial, right? So this ain't gonna happen again, and we probably won't be around for the bicentennial. So this is definitely a blessing.
I'm gonna live forever, dog.
Right?
For real.
Right. So we appreciate it, man. This is a great thing y'all doing.
Yeah, it's a real big honor. So it's an honor to serve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where we're gonna start this, I know we got like a subject, but we want to kind of do something that's, I guess, would be more. I wouldn't even say. I'm trying to find the right word. I wouldn't say interesting, but more. I don't know what the word is, but let me just go ahead and say it. So, being that it's been 100 years, so we're saying, okay, so it's 100 years later. So we would like to ask the question of what would Marcus Garvey think if he could see the world today? He had his vision 100 years ago. So what would he think about what he would see today if you could resurrect him? So we want to kind of get into that sort of thing. So let me ask J-Mo and Jay, do you want me to start first, or y'all good? Y'all have
I got something. I got something. I think he would be appalled at the overall lack of integrity of the community and at how much the people have lost what little of themselves they actually had, an aspect of the efforts toward Pan-Africanism. I think he would definitely be pleased with that because, it's taking root. It's somewhat sluggishly, but definitely taking root. I think he would like to see it become more of a culture. He probably would expect it to have become more of an overall culture, even in our mainstream sectors as far as Black life is considered. But yeah.
Okay, so I kind of like misstepped, but it's all good. We can still go this direction. But so there's a quote that Marcus Garvey said that I love. Like, it's probably my favorite quote by him. And he said, "I have no desire to take all Black people back to Africa. There are Blacks who are no good here and will likewise be no good there." So the reason why I love that quote is because Black people have this thing about, if it's Black, you support it. If it's Black, it's family. And that's not true. And that's what he was trying to say back then. There's levels to awareness. And he was saying that if you bring a European mind, they will just recreate what's happening over there just through a Black face. Yeah. So that led me to the thought of Black Lives Matter. And what would Marcus Garvey think if he woke up today and he saw Black Lives Matter? So I'm gonna throw that to Jig. What's your thoughts on that?
Man, it's layered because I think what you're saying lines right up to what I was going to say anyway. So I'm glad you kind of threw that my way. So first of all, the quote that resonates with me is when Marcus Garvey said, "If the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it." So
give me your
someone's microphone is on.
Give me.
Yeah. Who is that?
Not sure.
Okay. All right. So let me start over. So if the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of the modern civilization and will die from the effects of it. So modern civilization, in the eyes of Marcus Garvey, we understand to be white supremacists and Western civilization. And so what you see from Black Lives Matter is exactly what he was talking about. You see, like Thoreau called them weirdos. You see the gays. You see the just crazy people that want to associate themselves with the Black movement, even waving our flag. And using elements of the flag in their flag and trying to subsume our movement. And so I think he would look at that and look at just the landscape of Black people and feel very dismayed, very hurt and harmed, but plenty opportunity because if you remember, he's trying to move us out of this country into Africa and unite us. And he's against it because if you think about the technology of the time, he's against the tide. There's so much against him to try to make that happen. But today, all you got to do is pick up your phone, log into a computer, and you can galvanize millions of people. So I think at one end, he would feel terrible by what they've done in his name, but at the same time, see a lot of potential in the ability to galvanize the people. So, yeah.
Okay. J-Mo, you got something to say about that before I get my thoughts?
That was very well put. Yeah. I wonder how outraged he would be. You know what I'm saying? And we be able to actually hear him bring that whirlwind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So check this out. So I used to say this back in the day, and it was something that I took pride in when I was, just waking up. And so, I remember a time, and I said this on our show before, where when you saw a brother or sister with some African clothing on, it represented a level of consciousness or awareness, right, that they kind of was understanding who they were in this world, right? So I used to say, anytime I saw any Black person from America with African garb on, I knew that was family, automatic. You know what I mean? 99% of the time, that was family. If I walked up to them, we gonna connect on that level, right? Right. And so I also used to say, you'll never see a Black person who's from here wearing African clothing doing some degenerate type stuff as far as misrepresenting the clothing that they will wear. You get what I'm saying? That now, don't get me wrong, there's always, like the outliers, but we're talking about in general. And so what happened was when this Black Lives Matter thing took over, you started seeing people who didn't really represent the clothing starting to wear it, right? To start blurring the lines of what an African-centered person really was. You know what I'm saying? And so, as J-Mo said, they started taking our symbols and they started desecrating them, started making them lose value to the point where, there's some Black people who will throw away those symbols based off of, because they like, I don't want to be associated with that. So I will just give up that word, hotep, conscious, we'll give it up. Because it's like, now they starting to use it. We won't fight for it anymore. And we know that that's one of the things. Now, I'm just speculating, but I'm following logic. That's one of the things that we know, that the people who are against us know that about us. They know if they desecrate what you think or what you hold in high esteem, they know you will give it up. You won't fight for it no more. You'll just try to find something else to do. Like they took pride from us. Everything that that side of the fence, the homosexuals, the Soros ran people. Yeah. Their whole game plan was to take everything we had and use it for themselves, right? Right. So now we have and this all connects to what y'all were both saying about Marcus Garvey and how he would view them. I'm sure he would have been wise enough to peep game on that. It's like, man, they're taking our symbol and they're desecrating it. They're adding it to things. They're making it represent something that it truly doesn't represent. So he would have completely had an issue with Black Lives Matter. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like he wouldn't have been fooled by that. And I'm talking about, in my opinion, I know this man was way wiser than anybody on this phone, on this call. So he ain't gonna fall for that okie doke. You get what I'm saying? And so, all right, let me go a little bit further and y'all can chime in on this. So not only did they desecrate our symbols, then they brought in this quote unquote solidarity with Europeans.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? So now we're talking about white folk statistics, and I believe them on this one. Right. They said that 5 out of 6 Black Lives Matter protesters are white.
White. Yeah.
I heard that. And that's a fact. I believe that because we can turn on a TV and see it. And so then the question becomes for these Black people who like solidarity with Europeans. The question becomes, like, okay, so what is the end game of your solidarity with them, right?
Man.
Complete total amalgamation, because
Yeah.
because the whole thing with the Negro mindset is that you're starved for non-Black acceptance. And so in the aspect of them now able to, you know, ride this new wave of we love Blackness type thing that the whole world is going through now, they're going to see that engagement with those non-Black people as you know, that vicarious atonement that they've been needing from white folk, and believe that, oh, okay, yeah, things are changing, we're accepted now, a lot more money finna start coming through for things that are Black centered, and they're going to create their own perspective of what it means to fight for Blackness outside of liberation, outside of Pan-Africanism, outside of even the destruction of white supremacy. You know?
Yeah, I wanted to tag on to something you said earlier and then use it to answer your question. So we were all talking about what he would think about what he sees today. And one of the things I think about is when someone creates something, it becomes their baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my baby,
Yes.
like whatever it is. So it could be like, let's say for the Lakers, right? Like, you got the owner, Jerry Buss, he created this unbelievable organization in the world of sports. And then he dies, and what happens to the organization? It crumbles. Did you know the statistic is, at least for a moment it did, the statistics is that 70 to 90% of businesses fail in the second generation because the person that created it, that was their baby. But the second generation never cares for it the way that the originator did. You know what I'm saying? So they look at it as, they look at it as an inheritance. They look at it as something I can cash out. A lot of Black folks, you know, unfortunately, we have our grandfathers, grandmothers that work years and years to have houses, and they pass them down to the next generation, and they sell them and go on trips. You know, like, you don't honor their baby the way they did. So you're willing to give it up just for small means and small gains. So what happens in what you're talking about, solidarity with whites, we can't sell RBG and Marcus Garvey for money, but we can certainly sell it for what J-Mo said, which is vicarious atonement. I can sell it for that, because that's what I want. As we talked about on our show before, and I think I stated before, is that the coons survived throughout the history of us living here in this country. The slaves that were the revolutionaries, the ones that fought back, the ones that stood up, they were killed. So obviously the house Negroes and the coons survived. They were the ones that their DNA is in us more than anything. So a lot of us aren't willing to fight, but we can take what the revolutionary did, the one that had true heart, we can honor him in word, but as soon as the chance comes for us to get what we want, which is that vicarious atonement and that solidarity and the love for white people, we'll sell it in a minute. And I think that's what's happening to us right now, unfortunately. And they know that.
It's
and that's why they do it.
It's pathological.
It's pathological.
Because, and it releases some of the pressure out of the valve. All they do is permit just a little bit more access, and it quells whatever would be a revolution.
Exactly.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So then it led me to, then the question was, what's their end game with them, right? And so then they treat these solidarity Europeans like they hatch out of an egg, right?
Right.
Like they never was connected to anything.
Right. So
the question is then, who gives birth to these solidarity Europeans, right? You get what I'm saying? So like, for example, and I'm gonna keep calling them solidarity Europeans. That's their new term for them. These solidarity Europeans, I asked the question before, what are they prepared to do with their racist parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins? What are those solidarity Europeans prepared to do with them?
Send them to a class like defensive driving school.
Right. Yeah. Like racism anonymous. You know, like they're not really willing to do anything for that, which is what we understand. The end game is ultimately white supremacy, but you accept it. Like that's the only difference. One was white supremacy, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
The new game is white supremacy and you accept it. And that's the only difference, because they know for sure they're not willing to destroy the construct, because they are telling us to believe in the law. And we've been telling them for years that the law has always been against us. But what they're going to continue to do is convince you to vote, believe in the system that's been killing you, continue to believe in it. So now it's white supremacy, and I hope you accept it. And that's the only difference.
Yeah. But it's like anything constructed that people follow. Now, well, I'm not speaking absolutely. I always have to throw that disclaimer out there. But there's always the good and bad in every construct, right? The yin and yang. So whether you into sports and you like your team, there's going to be a team you hate. You know what I'm saying? If you're religious, there's God and the devil. So that's what they represent in that perspective. The liberal white is there to play the side of it's all good. It ain't all of us, right? But that side is what keeps them afloat. It's very important. It's like the solidarity white person is like one of the most important aspects of what keeps white supremacy alive. Because you have to believe that there are some good white folks for it to work. If you believe all of them are bad, there's all out war, fam.
That's
so they have to.
Let
me say this right quick, J-Mo. Let me say this right quick. Then you just hold your thought. That's why they have to keep them around you. That's the whole purpose, right? Yeah. You know, so that whenever that righteous African angel on your shoulders, like, yo, man, they all like this. They're gonna have to bring that solidarity European around you to try to throw some water on that. You get what I'm saying? But go ahead, J-Mo. What you saying?
I was saying that's what the superhero is about, as LOL Star showed us back in the day. The whole aspect of the superhero is that you believe in the goodness that they present and that they say that they represent, even if it's diametrically opposed to you having an enriched reality. It's like Jay said, white supremacy light. Like, yo, we hope you are accepted now. Like instead of the law being anti-black, they'll say, you continue saying, oh, the law is flawed. And we can fix those flaws.
Yes.
Or they'll point out just a specific racist person instead of a racist culture that all of them are privy to. And they're just like when the police kill one of us, they'll put it all on that policeman, but they won't. Not the system.
And not white supremacy.
Right. And they'll say, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, he did something he shouldn't have did. Broke and entering and then killed and premeditated murder. But it's like, well, wait a minute. At the beginning, there was no guilt toward this police officer. So that means that he had to present this false fake story up a chain of command. And it got passed from whoever he first told it to where it ended up in the mayor's office or whatever. And
you know what?
Want to do something about it.
I have an analogy now. It may be dope or it may not be dope. You know, I don't know. But how I see, because we have this thing with black folks where when you have quote unquote black nationalists, our goal is not equality, right? And that becomes a major rift between ideologies where, because if you believe in equality, what you're saying is, I just want to be equal to these people who are demons. That's basically what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. Like you cannot be equal to them without being them. You have to be something completely different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Your whole goal got to be something completely different, not being equal to them. So the analogy that I thought about with equality was basically a menthol cigarette. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like, it'll kill you a little slower. You know what I'm saying? Just a little slower. But it's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same thing. And that's what you're fighting for with equality.
Yeah. Let me give you one that my dad told me that every now and again. I tell him, it's things you tell me that I never forget. And I was like 6. And he said, you know, when you watch a commercial, you know they're all in it together. Whoever they're saying that they're against, they're on the same team. So what he would say is like, look at how Pepsi is telling you not to like Coke. What they're really doing is promoting Coca-Cola. And what they're doing is actually providing you the adversary, because they're not trying to allow you to think outside of the entire box, right? So I'm going to give you the pro and the con. I'm not going to let you decide the con. I'm going to give you the con, because the con is still soda. So even if you like Coke, you might like Pepsi. But if I give you the con that is completely opposite of what I'm doing, you'll never drink Pepsi. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to give you the pro, I'm going to give you the solidarity, and I'm going to give you the racism, because I don't want you to decide what real solidarity is. So I'm going to provide it for you. I'm going to give you Democrat, and you don't have to like Republican, but Democrat, take that. Don't decide nothing else outside of that, which is why Trump has to go, 45 has to go, is so important to voting for the Democrat and not deciding anything outside of the box that they've presented you with.
Yeah, you fast forwarding, dog.
I know, but I had to. It was right there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good, man. But when it comes to how because no one can speak for Marcus Garvey. Like, all we can do is just try to follow logic on what we think. And if you have a base on what's best for all of us, you can kind of, answer certain questions and the mentalities that's involved in that. So that's why I brought up, the solidarity Europeans. And so not only that, we're talking about what would Marcus Garvey think about homosexuals flying his flag?
Mm.
So what do y'all think about that?
I think, all right, so here's the thing. Here's what I honestly think what could be the case. Now, first of all, we're thinking in the mind of a person living in the 20s and prior. So we already know what the idea of homosexuality was at that point. But honestly, I think it would be a level of saying, listen, we understand that there are going to be certain people that behave a certain way. But I think the real problem is that you're trying to use J-Mo's word from earlier, amalgamate the two. You're trying to, I'm watching a Sprite commercial and they're saying, black is not monolithic. I already know what you're saying. Basically, I'm black and I'm gay and accept me. It ain't even about what anything else you're trying. I know what that's about. So I think the major problem is trying to make it seem like that fight is as equal and as important as this fight. And that's what makes it a capital sin. More than anything, more than just being gay or having that struggle within you and still trying to fight for your people. It's the bigger problem is when you're trying to match the struggles and make it seem like this is just as important as what you're doing. And I think that would be calls for your quote thorough and kind of make it known that you're not coming back with us. Like you could stay here with that.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, J-Mo?
Yeah, I think he'd be disgusted. I really do. Because the whole thing about Garveyism is basically you're taking care of your people from the lowest unit to the largest unit. So I mean, the basic family structure would have to have a certain specific aspect of integrity. He would not want to take single mother families back to Africa. He would want to take entire intact families, and anything that went against that, which would the better for the people, he would be vehemently against it. So, all that, gender dysmorphia wouldn't get no kind of love, and I mean, I think he'll be so weirded out, past the whole, punkism thing. Now, they're into, the trans. Can you imagine Marcus Garvey coming back and seeing some trans person waving his flag and can't tell if it's a man or a woman and just dress all kind of different ways in one of them parades? Like they fly the RBG flag not because at one of their so-called pride parades, man.
Yeah.
It's sickening to see the banner right next to one of their floats that, so it might look like a phallus, or it might look, it might look like a child's play toy, but so you see adults all around and stuff. I mean, it's straight up what they call that place in the Bible that they say that
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Cause that's what he would see. That's exactly what he would see. And he'd be as an aspect of any semblance of cordiality through it.
And then not only that, you have white people flying his flag. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, which is honestly, which is worse. I mean, because it's through that you get that. You understand? Like that like what you talk about, that solidarity. Yeah. It's through that you're going to get the ills from what my quote was talking about, the quote that I'm using from him. That's where you're going to get it from. Because the minute you start accepting them fully into your space, when you're doing that, when you're on your political platform, and you're not like you're having meetings and trying to figure out how maybe if we can make something work together, but not when you're in my group, that's when all the rest of that comes with it. And exactly. Like I said, we sold it out a little while ago. Unfortunately, not all of us, obviously, but enough where they feel comfortable putting it in commercials and on flags, and we just don't have no say over it. Mm-hmm. It's blasphemy.
They commercialized it. And
Exactly.
so, you know what the analogy I always use, I use it a million times, but I know there's possibly people who never heard of us, so I'll just say it again. It's the whole concept of when you're young and like, let's say you're in kindergarten, first, second, third grade or whatever, and they teach you about how to survive a tragedy, right? So they'll say, hey, if there's a fire in your house, you touch the door, and if it's hot, you don't open the door because there's fire. They say, don't crack the door because smoke will come in, and it'll come in slowly, but it will consume you. You get what I'm saying? And kill you. And that's what all of these groups do. They allow the door to be cracked. Once you crack the door, and that means when you start accepting certain behaviors and certain ideologies, once you crack that door, either the smoke is going to consume you or the fire is going to get in, right? That's always going to happen. So you have to be very rigid with how you protect the things that you honor. And so that's why a lot of people, and when we say certain things, no one is perfect. So no one is telling you they're Jesus or something like that when they call for integrity, right? It's just that knowing that once you allow certain behaviors, there's something coming after that. That's just the first thing you see. And so the second thing is, and the third thing is really what the game plan is about. And that's what's really, going to affect you. And so we have to be very careful about being quote unquote open-minded about things, right?
Right.
So the example that I used before is like having a beautiful mansion, right? You've been gifted this beautiful mansion, or you worked hard for it. And so the front door to your mansion, as soon as you open the door, there's pearl white carpet, right?
Okay.
Would you let somebody with muddy shoes walk into your house?
Of course not.
Like, there's no way you would tell them to clean themselves up before they come up in there, right? And that's how that house represents the conscious community. You were supposed to clean yourself up before you come into it, right? But people are kicking in the door, they running game on you, manipulating you, and they coming into a house that's supposed to be clean with their dirt and mud and all that, right?
Right.
And so now we have to deal with all the weird stuff now. That's what and that even goes for, because another question I was about to ask was, even when it comes to the streets, because I know that the streets is synonymous with Black people, right?
Right.
So when you say the streets, you ain't thinking about no white folks, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so what happens is we treat the streets like how we treat religion. Like that's what gave birth to you. Man, I'm from the streets. You take pride in it, right? The streets taught me this and taught me that. The streets didn't teach you nothing, fam. Being an African is what taught you and saved you from the streets, not the streets, because the streets was designed to kill you, right? So what happens is you have these people who are from the streets, like a lot of Black people are, and they don't want to denounce the streets, but they want to come into the clean house. You follow what I'm saying? So they want to come in there with muddy shoes on, and they want to rep their gang still. They don't never denounce nothing that they did, and it messes the house up. And so the people who in the house like, yo, man, why you gonna allow this? They become the haters, right?
So that means that the house integrity must be maintained by the most stern standards, by some even more sterner standards, as opposed to, showing love to everybody. You know what I'm saying? It maybe the value within the house has to be earned, and not just an aspect of the whole thing of, well, even if you are a fellow Black person that's, oppressed and in pain and all that stuff, it's like, nah, you have to have a certain understanding of the value that is, the house of consciousness, if you will. You know what I mean?
If you don't do that, so I used to say this all the time. The only time you hear the word conscious is when it's negative. That's the only time you hear it. Y'all conscious people, y'all ain't no better than conscious, it's always negative, right? So if a brother or sister is out there feeding people, clothing people, self-defense, anything you could think of that's positive, they never say, man, I love how these conscious people doing those things.
Right.
It's only when someone does something negative with muddy shoes on in the house does it become the conscious people. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why you have to be very strict about who you allow in there, because it reflects the whole house.
So then you ask, what's the best way to be strict then? I mean, because you seen the type of strictness there's been. I think this is where the whole aspect of the militant comes back in. The whole reason why you want a militancy is because you want a discipline, you want an order, and you want an order so that they can maintain a certain kind of harmony. A lot of people think in the aspect when someone brings forth enacting order is that, okay, they want to be in charge, they want to run things. But it's like, nah, order is for the harmony. And so if there's a certain harmony to be maintained, even, you know, it's not necessarily pristine, but definitely to the point to where one can get some pure lessons from it, then it has to be maintained like military status. But then you come back to that aspect of those most people do not have the character to.
But here's the problem though, because you're absolutely correct. The problem becomes, which is why I brought all of this up, because every conversation goes back to the beginning where it started, was when you crack that door, fam.
Right.
Once you crack that door, that's when everything goes. That's when it's over.
Who the hell left the gate open?
but you got to remember something too. You got to think about another way to get through to people is to reveal the hypocrisy, right? So any of us that's from the hood, and I can't speak for everybody, but I know I was, and I spent a little time in the street, if you will. There's a thing called street code, right?
Yeah.
So how is it that you can respect street code, but you can't respect this code?
Exactly.
Because so
street code comes with the possibility of lethality, and that's the one thing that conscious community ain't really carrying out. Like
it don't, but the concept is still valid when you're revealing the hypocrisy. You see the gravity of keeping street code, because it can keep you out of prison, and it could possibly keep you out of a grave. Yeah. Do you value this like that? Because if you understand the gravity of what it is to keep street code, then you should understand the gravity of what it means to keep this code. Secondly, the same way with the streets. In order to get out in the streets, you got to do what? Prove yourself. Right. Nobody can just walk out there. And I know for a fact that a lot of old heads will tell a young boy, you ain't ready for this, so I'm not going to put you on. Right. You got to prove yourself. So that's when you hear about gangs seeing people getting jumped in. That's when you hear about somebody saying, look, if you want to be part of this gang, you got to go kill such and such or beat up such and such. You got to prove yourself to get part of the streets. So why, if you can do that, can't you respect the concept of proving yourself to be a part of this?
Now, my fault. Go ahead, fam.
No. So the point is what I always talk about, is that when you can't elevate yourself, you celebrate your denigration. Yep. You know, when you want to elevate, you want to be celebrated for elevating, for graduating. But when you know you can't, what you instead do is turn the tables and celebrate denigration. I can't celebrate going to college and graduating, but I can celebrate coming home from jail, because that's something that I can do. You see what I'm saying? So now you're seeing this celebration.
Beauty in the ugliness, you know?
Exactly. That's a beautiful way of putting it. You got to, because you can't beautify yourself. So what you're doing is turning the tables. And unfortunately, that's the muddy shoe. And in order to get people to not wear the muddy shoe, is to get them to understand why you can't, bro. Like, this is not that. And that's why you can't. You're not going to be able to force people, you know, but at least you can get across to them, like, the way the streets made you and the way you value that, value this. Mm-hmm. You gotta do this too. You can't carry both.
Now what's interesting is that, you know, whenever I talk, for people who don't know who I am, I'll talk myself out of a thought, because I want to say 3 different things at one time.
Yeah.
So what happened is that when I became conscious, I started seeking things out. So I wanted to join the organization, right?
Right.
So back when I was trying to join the organization, you were on probation for 2 years, man. Like, you had to show that you were committed and that you were about that life. before they allow you to wave a flag of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now today, all you got to do is watch a YouTube, say you agree with something, and then people will, people will allow you to join the group, quote unquote, because everything is virtual now, right? So now you could take on a moniker that you ain't really about. You follow what I'm saying?
The thing
so,
is, our people are
wait, let me say
saturated
this.
in
Let me say
emotion,
this.
though.
Let me say this. Yeah, and that's a point that we're gonna talk about. Now, I'll definitely put that in the bullet points. That, for example, so what happened with me was when I first started questioning the world that I saw. Like, I woke up one day and I said, yo, this ain't right. There's something else to this, right? So what happened was there were certain rappers who would drop books for me. They were like, yo, read this book in a song. So I'm like, yo, I would go out and buy that book. So when I started reading the book made no sense to me. It went completely over my head because there's a certain step you got to go through to get to that book, right?
Yeah.
So I had to buy other books. And then when I read those other books, then that book that they name dropped made sense to me. It was like, how did I not get this? This is baby knowledge.
They gave you a legend.
Yeah, you have to go through steps to get somewhere, right? That's how it always is in any process. But what happens is, now that we have social media and these sort of things, people believe they can read a meme, they can watch a 10-minute YouTube, and all of a sudden, they're general status. You know what I'm saying? And not they didn't have to really. So that's like one of the major things that's happening right now, is that no one is forced to go through any sort of probation period before they call themselves something. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm saying by understanding like how you do with the streets. You go through a period of now the word is missing. The word is, I'm losing the word, but when you're being initiated, I guess that's what you look at it. Is you gotta value what you're putting yourself into the same way you value that. You can't use the streets to cancel out the importance. You got to use the concept of the streets to invigorate yourself to know the importance, because this is more important than that, So yeah, it's definitely something that we should be looking more into. And the danger, especially when you just hop on something, because I see this happen a lot. The danger with Facebook, right, is that I have a lot of friends who I seen their transformation. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I know I was one of the people on their friends list banging hard on this, right?
Yes.
But when I see them transform and then continue transforming, I question whether or not you read enough, because you skip something to make you think these two things go together. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point you skip the page, because how did you get to the point where I'm telling you all of this and yet you're equalizing this to homosexuals? Like, how did you get there? Because you must have skipped some books. So, and it's easy to do when, again, you're not held to any standard, when you can just buy a RBG flag on Amazon and you don't have to really, earn it, or any of that type of stuff. So that's the danger in that. We do live in a microwave culture.
Absolutely. And the analogy that fits that is hip hop, right? So once upon a time, you had to have some sort of street credibility for someone to take you serious as a rapper, right? So what would happen was, like, for instance, if you are a white rapper, you had to be co-signed by somebody for people to take you serious. But then when the Iggy Azalea thing happened, she didn't need true credibility to like make it big. You get what I'm saying? And so that's sort of what it's like in the quote unquote conscious community, where you have these people who can bypass codes. That's the key word of the day, codes that used to be relevant and absolute, that you had to do before you can say you're something, right? So I can't say that for example, I can't say that I'm part of the Nation of Islam without going through their protocols and codes. I can't just claim Nation of Islam.
And they ain't gonna let you neither.
No, hell no, you can't. I can't claim any group. I don't care if you pick the Moors, if you pick the Hebrew Israelites and the different groups that they deal with. I can't claim that unless I go through their codes and their procedures. But when it comes to Pan-Africanism, flying that flag, for some reason, anybody can do it.
Takes all comers.
Anybody can do it, man. and there's no repercussions to it. That's the problem.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I'm saying?
I think the same thing stands for them too on the low. Like they have the same issue. I mean, we might not understand it sometimes if you're on the outside, but it's very easy for somebody to claim I'm Hebrew without ever attending nothing. Like they heard an argument and they read the Bible and they're like, yeah, I'm Hebrew.
Well, let
And
me
so
pause you
now-
right quick. Let me pause you
Yeah.
right quick. When I say that, so for example, you can say, because they will tell you you're something, right? They will say, hey, you are a Moor, you are a Hebrew. They will say you're born into that, right? But I can't say that I'm ISUPK.
Oh, right, yeah.
Unless I'm with them. I can't say I'm NOI unless I'm with them.
Yeah.
That's what this Pan-Africanism is. You haven't done nothing to show that you're with that. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, I get. So you're talking about like instead of for the general ideology, you're talking about like the specific camps that's involved with the ideology.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what Pan-African used to be. It was a UNIA thing, right?
Yeah.
It was based off of certain things that you had to do to show that you represented that flag properly, right?
Right.
Because we know that even with white folks, right? So if being born into something was good enough, you would never have any of these protests. I mean, my bad. You would not have these white people mad about you protesting about the flag or any sort of thing. And they're like, yo, that's your flag too. You're born here. You're a naturalized citizen of the United States. Now they saying, nah, fam, to represent this, you have to fall within these parameters. And they don't believe we do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they know we're from here, but we don't fall within the parameters of what represents that flag.
I mean, so in the aspect of the representation of the flag, though, the flag represents resilience and restoration. And the thing is, the people who are now coming within it, they just represent the feel-good aspect of it. And I think that's, of course, when you first get into knowledge of self, you get that rush of energy to where, you understand that you have been in a situation to where your value and your self-worth and the worth of your people's history and everything has been completely diminished. And so, when you first year, 2 years in, you start wanting to tell everybody, hey, yo, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know this? Did you know this? Right? And I think people get locked into that. And not moving out of that stage into the stage to where, okay, yeah, you feel good, you get in the energy, it's feeding you, you love your people, cool. Now let's get to building. And to build, it takes structure, it takes planning. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to help. Go ahead.
No, I think that's brilliant because what I think what it leads me to believe, what it leads me to remember, to think about is, I don't know if anybody knows the McDonald's story, and I'm not going to get into the details, but in general, McDonald's started off as one store, right? And eventually the original owners, the McDonald's brothers, was franchising McDonald's, but they had a problem that everybody has. When you get too big, you lose control. So they wanted to franchise McDonald's, let's say, to another place in another town. But those people started selling chicken. Like, look, these hamburgers sell, but imagine if we also sold some chicken.
Right.
And so the McDonald's brothers would go over there and be like, look, this is not McDonald's. What you're doing is something else. You can't sell chicken. But they couldn't control them because I'm so far away from you and I'm managing so many different places. This one want to sell milkshakes. That one want to sell Sprite. So what happened was the guy, Ray Kroc, comes in and he tells the McDonald's brothers, let me handle this. And so however he did it, without all the details, he managed to make McDonald's into the franchise that it is, that no matter where you go, essentially, McDonald's is McDonald's. The price is the same, unless you go outside the country, in certain places. But in America, every McDonald's you go to is a McDonald's. And that's the way you control your product. And that is the kind of energy I think we could take. Yes. And the difficulty in that, though, is that you're bound by contract when you sign a McDonald's contract. You're bound by contract, and you can actually be sued if you don't do it. Mm-hmm. There is no repercussions for someone that decides to wave a flag and not agree to some of the principles. So, but either way, you can still take some of those same protocols into controlling something that's getting out of hand. Because at this point, RBG is all over the world. And how do you really control each and every mouth, each and every action, so at least you could take some of those steps that they took.
Yes. Okay. So go ahead, J-Mo.
No, go ahead. Let me write that down. I'm going to flesh that out. Go ahead.
That's okay. So So to go back to the beginning, because I like to put stuff in a nice little bow.
Yeah.
So the whole thing that we're talking about is 100 years later.
Yeah.
And what would Garvey think if he could see the world today? So I will ask y'all this before we move on to the next topic. Overall, would Garvey have a problem with what he envisioned as far as his flag and what it represents and how people are using it? Would he be for it or opposed to it?
He'd be mortified. I believe, honestly, he would be devastated to see what happened. It would be mortifying.
Yeah.
Because, it'd be heartbreaking. Because, again, this is your baby. And you spent your whole life going through trials, tribulations, deportations, humiliation to develop this into something that could save your people. And then 100 years go by, and which is not a long time if you think about it, just 100 years. That's basically my grandfather, could have been alive at that time. So that's not really that far. So you take that and you look just 100 years later and see what it's devolved into. Like I said, there is a lot of potential because of the world we live in. But I honestly think that when you consider all that we've talked about, and when you consider all that we've discussed over this hour and for the years that we talk, it's as if we lost sight and control of it. Like, I'm leaving this to you. I can't do it because obviously they're going to come for me. So I got to leave this to the next generation. And if you died and you happen to come back to life 100 years later, and to see what your people and what those people have done to the baby that you left, it would be devastating. It would be like, and excuse me for anybody that don't have this same mindset that I have, but it would be like me giving my daughter all of my time, all of my effort, paying for college, doing everything I can do, just for 20 years later, she becomes a stripper and a drug addict.
I was just going to say, to get
like
on the pole.
Right.
God,
it would be devastating that you spent all that time and energy just to see that turn out. And just to not denigrate the system. The same for my son, all that time and energy. And he grows up to be a drug dealer and a womanizer. I would feel like, what have I done? Like looking internally, like, what did I do to leave this legacy that has been destroyed with my name all over it? Because you can't separate RBG from Marcus Garvey. His name is all over it.
Exactly.
And now you're going to have this association with my name. Like, that would be, I think, heartbreaking.
Let me tell this story. I was just telling, I can't remember, man. I talk so much, man. That's why I always have to say, if I said this before, tell me and I'll stop. You know what I mean? Because I don't like repeat myself and make somebody listen to it again. But I was telling the story of Stickman from Dead Prez. Mm-hmm. And I was saying that on my OG page, he used to comment on stuff that I used to say on my page, right? So whether it be music or how I saw the world, he would chime in on my page. And so one time I hit him up in the inbox because I was like, yo, I got to ask this brother this question. And I want to know how he's going to respond to it, right? So it was kind of like it was a test, but I really wanted the answer too. So I asked him, I said, yo, man, what do you think about how y'all flipped the Pan-Africanist movement with the RBG term, right? So I said, do you think that y'all did any damage by associating it with gang stuff, like revolutionary but gangster? I said, do you feel like you did some damage to what Marcus Garvey was trying to do? And so I could tell when I asked him that was the first time that's ever been presented to him, that he never even sat down and thought about that. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So he said, he was like, man, I wish I could have went into my page and quoted him, which I'm not even like, Stick is cool. Like, I'm not trying to dog the brother out. But he was like, oh, no, man, what we were saying was, and I'm paraphrasing, we were just trying to show that we have to be a certain way, we have to do certain things to get the goals done. But I'm like, yo, fam, like, when y'all associated with like a gang flag, you know what I mean? Like, made it like a gang flag, you basically put the call out for the gang members. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we got this influx of people, because it resonated with them. They were like, oh man, they got a red and black green bandana. That's similar to what I'm doing, right? So a lot of them kept the muddy shoes on because they felt like they didn't have to clean up to be a part of the Pan-Africanist group. Whereas before Dead Prayers did that, it was a true group that you had to clean up to get in. You get what I'm saying? So they actually, as great as Dead Prayers are, they actually help to maintain the confusion, because you have a lot of people who call themselves Pan-Africanists and they down with it, but like I said, they won't denounce their gang stuff. They won't say, I'm not for that, children, you shouldn't be for that. They still kind of love it.
Yeah.
We'll argue with you about it. You follow what I'm saying? So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, that's I mean, you see it everywhere, honestly, man. We can't shake that. You know, like you said, it's almost like the streets are synonymous with us, and we take it everywhere. Even it's sometimes even in your place of employment. Now, I will say this: a lot of us will hold back more when you at your job, you know, and you feel more comfortable when you're around your people, that you don't got to clean yourself up for your people. But when you're around Mr. White Man, you know, you put a little spin on it if it's for that money, if it's for your business, or if it's for some job you got, which just shows the problem that we have ultimately, is that we don't have enough respect for our baby, which is the movement, or our people in general. Even if you're not for all the detailed principles that is believed now or was believed at a time, just have enough respect for your people to keep that stuff where it is. Like, I'm not in the streets right now. I remember, again, I talk about my father a lot, man, and because he gave me a picture of what the world was like when he was a kid, which is, I always tell people, don't get stuck in your generational bubble. Talk to people that were outside of your generation so you could really see where you're messed up. He used to say that when they used to smoke cigarettes on the corner and a woman walked past, especially a woman, they would hide them. Even if they knew they were street kids, they would tuck their cigarette behind their back, take their hat off, hi, Miss Jenkins, and let her walk past, put their hat, and then go back to doing what they were doing. So even though they know they were in the street, it's still this respect of, I can't bring that to my, you know, it's a respect when you go to Big Mama house.
It's the, Eddie Haskell, the Eddie Haskell, is that his name? On Leave It to Beaver.
Right.
Hi, Mrs. Cleaver, like he was a complete a-hole behind the scenes.
For real.
But he put on that front when he saw Cleaver's parents. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's do this. All right, so let's move on to because we got three major things we're gonna do. So let's kind of move on to the second one. And what I want to talk about is this whole Kamala Harris type thing, right? That's happening. Man. So now we're about to deal with politics. We're gonna get into some politics right quick. So of course everybody knows that she was Biden's choice of vice president, right?
Good chess move.
But when you watching what's happening right now, right? So you know, I'm a Mavericks fan. If I'm sure few people know that. I'm from Dallas, so I represent the Dallas teams. And so when you watch the NBA, one of the things that you're seeing is, the players wearing Black Lives Matter shirts, and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so Kamala Harris is basically the print on the court, in the NBA games. That Black Lives Matter print that's painted on the courts. That's what she represents in this election, because they're adjusting to the fact that they think that is what people are into right now, right? Because we know it's all A&R type stuff, and they go with what's popping at the moment. So they're using her as that sort of thing. She's the Black Lives Matter representative, right? And so I got a lot of things to say about that. I ain't gonna talk too long. I'm gonna let y'all get up in it. But she is what any of that stuff that you see popping right now, right? So when they tear down statues, when they do these sort of things, it's symbolism.
Placation.
She represents symbolism right now, right? Yeah. And what's crazy about it is if you ask people who will acknowledge that, yo, man, all this stuff is symbolic, what they're doing. They're not offering anything tangible to Black people right now. It's all symbolism, and it still all benefits white supremacy, or it's not a threat to white supremacy. Like we said on the show, name us an organization, a real black organization that got nearly $2 billion of charity, and that's Black Lives Matter. They got nearly $2 billion of charity, and we know that white people are not going to fund you to attack them. They're definitely not going to give you $2 billion for you use that $2 billion against them. So they have to know that they can either control that organization or that organization is not a threat to them. So I want to make that point. And the second point I want to make is that, you know, if you understand symbolism based off of what you're seeing happening right now with Black Lives Matter, then that should give you the ability to have hindsight and recognize what Obama represented back then. Because you didn't have enough stuff to show you what symbolism was back then, but now you have plenty. Yeah. So now you should look back and say, man, I got duped. I'm talking about the Obama lovers. He only represented symbolism. Wow. Now I know that. So you gotta be able to say I was wrong. All right, then I'm gonna make this third point and then y'all can go in. So then another thing that you should that you should recognize is that what do they have in common? They both don't have two black parents. So why is it that every time they offer up somebody black for us to rally behind, they never have two black parents? Right. Never. That is not a coincidence.
No, the thing is black itself has been reformed. That's what a lot of people don't see. This is why they started infusing, you know, the gender dysmorphic community into everything black, because we didn't know they were attacking black. We just thought that they were, you know what I'm saying, doing some tragedy jacking or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Trying to siphon off their energy. But black itself is being reformed into a new type of blackness that this system will now accept. That doesn't wish to revolt against safe. The new all safe black community that permits every single social degradation and maladaptive character trait ever. I mean, it really is. It's like they're remaking black people in the image that they want them to be in. And black people are going to take that placation and that symbolism. And, you know, like my father says, I asked him, how you doing? Oh, man, I woke up today, so today a good day. Now, what you finna do with that awakeness? You got energy. You were in 2020, he's 66, 67, and he's still talking about, well, I woke up, so I'm happy. It's like, nah, don't your life have more value than that? And it's like, nah, they're happy with that superficial surface stuff of just mere acceptance. And it's like Sister Tria said, she said it's written in blood. In the aspect of all those other organizations, with McDonald's, that's contract written in blood. That means that it holds a whole different value for the people who's even presented, who say that they live it. So in an aspect of the larger majority of people dealing with politics, Kamala is going to be exactly what they want, because it's back to the emotion thing. They're starved for that attention. They starved for that acceptance, and she's going to bring that. And you know, she's going to get the women. She's going to get the women. She's going to get the boomers. She's going to get the black people who just, you know, want that social hug and everything. And it's going to push Biden. I still don't think Biden's going to win, but it's going to push, and a whole lot of people is going to, you know, they're going to fall for the okie doke.
You know what else, Thorough, that you said they have one thing in common, that they don't have two black parents. Another thing that they don't have in common is that neither one of their black parents are descendants of slaves in America, which is a little oddity. I mean, and oddly enough, they were both on islands when they met. I mean, maybe that's just a coincidence. I'm not going to ride too much in that conspiracy lane, but obviously they don't have two black parents, and neither black parent is a descendant of slavery in America. And so what they're doing, obviously, is playing identity politics. And this is one of the reasons why I say black people are politically retarded, because as a whole, not every one of us, because we're so willing to fall for that. It is unbelievable how willing we are. It's not even like, it's like at some point, don't you feel disrespected that what they're going to do is just simply say, don't vote for Trump. We can't have that. And Biden literally comes out and says, I'm going to pick a black woman. Like, forget what they stand for. Like, forget what you need out of black people, what you need out of your politicians. We just gonna get a black woman. And even Stacey Abrams and all the other candidates were saying the importance of getting a black VP and a black woman VP was the difference between winning and losing the election. What are they telling you? This is how gullible black people are. Don't matter what they stand for. Get a black woman, and that's going to change the outcome of your election. That, to me, is baffling at this point in our existence in America, is that that's all that matters to us. Like, let's just get the first. Like, so Thurl said you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, right? And I'm a Sixers fan, right? I'm from Philly.
LA all day.
Okay, so yeah, LA. So we got all of these different teams in the house. Now think about the audacity of an owner to say, I'm not going to draft the best guy. I'm going to draft a black guy. Like if he were to tell his fans, like, I don't care how good he is, I'm going to get a black dude or I'm going to get a white dude. Even you as a black dude would be like, oh, we're trying to win. Like, what are you talking about? I want somebody that's going to put the ball in the hole. Like, I'm not worried about that. So what's the solution for fixing this team is what I want to know. So when they can just throw up with what they claim is the most important election of all time, because, for black folks, every election is the most important election of all time, because this is where we're going to get our savior. Yeah. What we're going to do is just be okay with the fact that we've been fighting against corrupt police all this time, and you going to put the police in office. Like, the audacity of just it's almost a joke, man.
It's embarrassing. You have to say this. You have to say it's pathological. At some point, we have to acknowledge the mental condition of the majority of our people as being pathological.
Yes,
definitely. And I've said this before, but it's worth repeating because, like I said, I know some of you probably don't know who we are, never heard us speak, but it's what people don't recognize. And I bet y'all be like, man, I wish this dude would stop using this analogy. But
I love it.
But what black people don't recognize is that you are diamond and silk for the Democrat Party. So how you view them when you're embarrassed by them and you like, man, they coon and blah, you are them. Yeah. Just for the Democrat. You know how long you've been diamond and silk for the Democrat Party? You've been that for like 50 years. You look just like them. You're no different. You're embarrassing. You represent your own demise. You kiss the ass of the candidate. You are them. They are a mirror. Only difference is you seeing them doing it for the opposite party, not your party, right? That's the same thing. But let me bring this up. So Biden pissed off, some black folks, and he was saying, hey, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, right? Like he was dropping the mic on y'all, like real talk. He was dropping the mic on you. And then, a week ago or so, he said that black people are not diverse like the Latinos, right? Yeah. He said when he deal with the Latinos, they are a diverse group. And so what he was meaning by that, he's saying, yo, if I go talk to the Puerto Ricans, they're not going to be the same as the Cuban or Mexicans. I have to deal with them individually. They all got different goals that they trying to see achieved. When it comes to black people, I could just give y'all one thing and y'all gonna eat it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to serve you up anything different. Now, the thing that was crazy about it is that black folks were offended by the truth. That dude was giving you a truth pill. You know what I'm saying? Because how we know he's giving you a truth pill is that when somebody asks you, are you voting? And you say no, they get pissed, right? They'll say, hey man, your ancestors died for you to have the right to vote, and you're disrespecting your ancestors, which we always tell them, no, our ancestors fought for us to have the option to vote if it fit us, not to force us into voting in the future, right? So Man, here I go losing my train of thought again.
Well,
See, that's what. Let me say this. My mind be moving so fast on point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Go
know the
ahead and
feeling.
talk, man. I'm gonna get that point back. I'm gonna get that.
No,
Point.
I wanna piggyback off of it because it's a strong point, and maybe this is where you were going, maybe not. But Black people fighting for the right to vote. I've made this point several times, so excuse me if anybody's heard it before. They fought for your right to choose to vote. But what Black people are so funny about is that if I tell you
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and say it then.
Yeah. That was my point. Is that once you tell them you're gonna vote for somebody else, then they get pissed because what they're actually saying is they want you to vote Democratic. Period.
Right.
That's the only option. That's what they mean by you need to exercise your right to vote. If you have any other choice in your mind, yeah, they're gonna be against you. But go ahead, fam.
Yeah. So that's what the audaciousness. That's where they get that from. And the Democrats is that
So
they can
Biden
say
is
that.
right. He's right, right?
He's right.
Because
He's
they saying that he
absolutely
was
right.
wrong for saying that, but Black folks prove it every day when you say I'm gonna vote for Trump. Then they get mad at you.
Right. So he's absolutely correct. And the sad part is that he's still gonna get your vote.
Yep.
He still wins. Like so not only is it automatically disrespectful that he would say it, not only is it automatically disrespectful that they're playing identity politics and they're not addressing any real factors in our communities, the fact that they put it together and get on a nationally syndicated radio show. And this the second or third time a Democrat has been on the Breakfast Club and just says something outlandish.
I got hot sauce in my purse.
Right. I got hot sauce in my and now you're talking to you didn't say this on CNN. You said this on a Black show to Black people as if that's cool. And both of them are still going to get the majority vote. It is unbelievably baffling to me that we're at this point that will accept anything as long as it makes me feel good. And I'm gonna keep quoting J-Mo because I love that quote, the vicarious atonement. Just as long as you please accept me.
That's his word.
Yeah, I love it because it's so apropos.
Yeah.
Please accept me. I'll take anything you give me as long as you say you love me. That's all I want to hear. I don't want real love. I just want to hear you say it. And then once you say it, I'm going to do whatever you ask me to do. That to me is unbelievable.
To that is an increased integrity. But when you have those factors of our community that effort towards that, then they're seen as being too rigid. They're seen as being too authoritative. And so perhaps maybe that is the route it's supposed to go. Speaking in the aspect of you said Stickman bringing up, creating RBG and everything, there is a certain amount of gangsterism that is actually required. We could call it militancy, we call it whatever, but we got to acknowledge that we're dealing with the United States of America. They aren't just government. They are hella gangster. Not saying that you have to be gangster, but in the aspect of the mentality for maintaining the integrity that you feel will, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that wasn't the point though.
No. I'm saying in the aspect of the integrity.
We agree we got to fight. But we were talking about something completely different.
No. I'm not talking about the fight. I'm talking about the integrity being established in the people to where this nation would engage them or feel that or the representatives of the nation will have to engage them at a certain level of respect, a certain level of valuing their constituency. They don't do that because Black people don't force them to. You go to the church, you know what I'm saying? You do the electric slide or something, eat a piece of chicken or whatever.
No, you're right.
You're
absolutely, you absolutely, and that's why I said this on the show before, is that you'll never see Biden, Kamala or Hillary Clinton go to Telemundo and say, I got a jalapeno in my purse. You know what I'm saying? And they will never go to an Asian broadcast and say they have soy sauce in their purse. But for some reason, they feel like that if they tell us they have hot sauce, they won the election. That's all. They don't have to give you nothing tangible. You don't want nothing else but just that. Bill Clinton playing his horn, Obama singing, a couple of bars. But like the analogy that I always used, and I always wanted to do this show, and I'm gonna do it too. We need to do it. I want to get some older people because we know that voting is not as relevant to the younger generations as it is to the older generations. So what I would like to do is get some older people, and I got Sutek in mind. So Sutek, if you listening or if you hear this, you definitely the person I'm thinking about right now. So that generation is the generation of our ancestors died for us to vote, or y'all don't know what y'all doing with the vote, and that's why. So then the question becomes, how long have we been voting? And so then they'll say, hey, we've been voting for this long. Do we still have poverty, ghettos? We're still being murdered by cops, disenfranchisement. All sort of things have been happening while we're voting, right? Like nothing changed since we've been voting. So the analogy that I always use, now, like I said, it's just how I see the world. You can see the world how you see the world. But I always used to tell people that if you truly believe that voting is real, so that means you got to ignore what happened in Florida with Bush and all these other these voting booths that they know can be jacked with because they're computerized and all this. You have to ignore all that. So let's ignore all that. Let's say that it's truly real. So if it's truly real, I'm talking about 100% airtight real. So then the question I ask them is why, if it's real, and the people who are benefiting from us not voting, why do those same people spend so much time asking Black folks to vote every 4 years? If they getting everything they want out of us not voting, so all they got to do is leave us alone and we won't vote and they'll run the world, right? Because voting is real. That's where the power is. So then the answer to that is because it's a faith-based process. It don't exist if you don't believe in it, right? That's number one. So it's like a dollar. A dollar is not really worth nothing. It's a piece of paper cotton. It's not worth nothing. You have to believe that dollar is worth something, and the person you giving a dollar to, they have to believe it's worth something for it to exist and to be relevant and real, right? So that's how politics work, as far as you have to believe in it. That's number one. Number two, if you're not participating or believing in their process, now they're wondering what you're doing on your own, right? Because that's where the power starts. If you don't put your faith in them, because I say politics is religion. You have to put your faith into white people, into a white man to be your savior. It's no different than Jesus or anything like that. So if you're not participating in their process, then they're scared that you're doing something on your own. That's what they fear the most, when you don't need them anymore, when you don't put your faith into their process, right? So what I find is that whenever, like for Obama, when Obama was in office, right, Black folks came out in droves to support him. They went out and voted like they never voted before. And so the people who didn't vote, we wasn't a factor because he still won, right? So you can't blame us because he still got into office. So now we sitting back, the non-voters who wasn't bamboozled, and saying, yo, man, so what are we actually getting from him being in office right now? And so, because I see the homosexuals getting something, I see the so-called Native Americans, I see the Jews, I see all of these different groups getting something specific from Obama, right? So when you say, so what is he doing for Black folks? Oh man, it's Congress, they stopping him and they roadblocking this dude, he can't. So then I hear the same people say, I'm talking about the people who voted for him, is that we still got to do stuff on our own. So I'm like, then what was the point? What was the damn point? Right? Because, and I know I'm gonna let y'all go. Let me just say this last thing, is that the most controversial statement that a Black person can make in America is doing it on your own. That is the most controversial stance there is politically. That's the most controversial political statement. Because when you say, hey, I'm gonna go vote, everybody start clapping, right? But when you start talking about doing it on your own, that's when these same people, man, they ain't gonna let you do this. This is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. They try to defeat you when you don't wanna attach yourself to a faith-based process, and I'm talking about voting, because these same people don't have to do nothing they promised you once they get in? Nothing.
Yeah.
But
Right.
go ahead, man. I know I rambled for a while. Y'all can go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I just wanted to say that, first of all, it reminds me of what they used to teach us in school about businesses, right? They'll tell you that businesses have two problems sometimes when it comes to, because most businesses put money to the side for research and development, R&D.
Right.
And so sometimes you'll it's a new wave coming and you want to be the first one to that wave, or you want to be the first one to the new structure of whatever it is. So you start investing your money into it as a business, let's say solar energy, but it's not working. So as a CEO, you got two choices. You could say, all right, we're going to drop that, take our losses, cut our losses, and move on to something else. Or you can say, it's because we're not investing enough. This is the route Black people take. They're telling you that it's not that voting is a problem. It's that we're not voting enough. So it wasn't enough to get Obama in. We need to get the Senate, the Congress. All right, we got that. His first two years, he had both. He had the House and the Senate and the Congress. He had all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, now you need to vote locally. So you need to make sure your mayor is a Democrat. Okay, we got that in Philadelphia. Oh, you also got to make sure the governor is a Democrat. Oh, we got that too over here in Philly. Oh, you need to make sure the councilman, right? So like you're not voting enough. But then at some point, and I'm speaking this in Philadelphia, we got a Democratic president, a Democratic Congress, a Democratic governor, Democrat mayor, Democrat councils, and we are still here.
Yep.
So at what point are we exercising in futility? What point do we take the business approach and say, let's cut our losses here? Because clearly this ain't enough. Like this ain't working. Because what they've done is what I spoke about earlier. They provided you with the adversary and then provided you with the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Put you in a box so that now you feel guilty if you don't take their solution, opposed to, as what Thurl just said, once I remove myself from the equation, then you're going to be wondering, what the hell am I doing? So just like I said about McDonald's, if I make the adversary Burger King, you still eating burgers. So eventually you're going to come get some of mine if you're hungry and there's no Burger King around. Oh, I'll stop at McDonald's.
Right.
But when you stop eating McDonald's and Burger King, they're going to want to know, what are you doing? Because you're clearly not buying into this billions of dollars of advertisement we're putting out. So what are you eating? They're going to want to know, and they're going to make sure that they cut those roads off.
Absolutely. All right. So, J-Mo, you got a little final point you want to make before I move on a little bit?
No, go ahead. I said.
Okay. So, no, I absolutely agree. And what we say about this is, dude, whenever I have an opinion or a thought, because I don't really like to call them opinions, because opinions to me is like an American thing where, they say everybody got an opinion, like that's not what it is. I believe certain people have logic-based thoughts based off of research and have a greater understanding on how to view things. So you get what I'm saying? I don't call that an opinion. That's not an opinion to me. An opinion is when somebody ain't even studied nothing, they could tell you something. Hey, man, what do you think about astrophysics? Man, I think this, even though they don't know anything about it, right? So that's how I look at certain things, you know what I mean? But
no, I want, before you go, let me give you a better example for the people listening about opinions. An opinion is, if I make dinner, how do you like it? I don't like it. I do like it. That's an opinion, because dinner is subjective. You can have an opinion about how you feel like something tastes.
Right.
But how is our situation working with voting? You don't have an opinion. You need to have a hypothesis, a theory, because that's based in study. Yeah. We're not dealing with opinions when it comes to this. You can opine about how you feel about something that you experience, but you cannot opine about things that we know to be true. Right. That is not opinion anymore. We need to make a distinction.
Exactly. And to me, that's one of the things that, because I know me and J-Mo talk about it, and I'm like, yo, fam, like when I talk about certain subjects that are relevant to our freedom, I rarely have an opinion about them. Like, I'm gonna tell you what I've researched, and like I said before on the show, you either have organic thoughts or you have genetically modified opinions, right. Meaning your foundation is based on BS. So anything that sprouts from your foundation ain't gonna be worth nothing. So whenever you talk about, because people could say things that sounds like the truth, but you have to investigate their roots. So the analogy I used was like Thomas Jefferson, all men created equal. And he got some slaves serving him some tea and he about to go rape a sister. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
That ain't true. You can't just go by his words. You got to follow his roots. And that's the one thing that we have to understand which ties into the emotion aspect of how they play black folks, right? Because when people came up with the term play with your emotions, they were actually giving you the game, basically. They were saying that, dude, everything is based on how I can move you certain areas based on what I say or do to you, right?
Right.
So I can either throw some symbolism at you and make you happy. I can, hit you with the cow, what that thing they hit them cows with to make them move.
Yeah. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah. They might hit you with one of those to make you mad, but anything that they do is designed to make you move a certain way. So what you have to be able to do is step back and think for yourself. You get what I'm saying? Because whenever the emotion is involved, that means somebody has done something to you to push you a certain way. So
can I push back a little bit on that, just a little bit, because I know what you mean, but I want to make sure people get this, because you just said step back and think for yourself. I want to make sure people understand, at least from my perspective, what that means. You got to have a base. So whatever it is that you're being presented with, right? If it goes for what your base and foundation is, that's what you got to go. When you step back, that's what you're checking. Does this go with my base and my foundation? If it does not, then I reject it. I'm not going to go by my emotions, because your emotions might push you to do something. But if you take a step back and you evaluate whatever they're saying and say, does this go with what I stand for? Whatever that is, then that's how you move, instead of trying to think for yourself, because people think they're thinking for themselves, but they're not. Like everybody that's lined up to get them Jordans, you ask them, all of them thinking for themselves. But how y'all all in this line together at the same time, same day, about to buy the same shoe? Y'all not thinking for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta make sure, and I'm not knocking people that buy Jordans, but just understand what that means. Like,
I got a couple pairs.
Right. Like most people do.
No, you actually saying that's basically what I was saying.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
No, I was absolutely saying that. Now the issue becomes when the foundation is created, right? So you have a certain foundation, and then that's like the roots of what sprouts out, which is your ideology and how you see the world. The problem is that a lot of black people, and I was joking with someone the other day, like, how often has the black community, quote unquote, said this? You know what, man, you're right, my bad. I'm gonna see the world different. You know what I mean? Like, you never hear that sort of ideology. Yeah. People are very firm in what they believe. And so now I'm thinking about something, and I'm like, yo, I will say it because I know the people listening may not have heard it, but I had watched and then we're gonna move on because I'm watching the time. Okay. So there was this I guess you can call it a scientific experiment or whatever, based on psychology. And so what it was is they went to, and I know y'all gonna remember this when I say it, what it was is they went to these schools that had students who were excelling, right? They were gonna go to some of the biggest colleges in the United States. So they were very, quote unquote, smart. And so they brought a model of the galaxy, right? With the sun, and they had the earth. And so they went to the students and they said, hey, show us on this model what happens that makes us go through different seasons, spring, fall, winter, summer. Like, show us what happens, right? So the students started explaining it to them and showing them, hey, this is what happens. The earth tilts this way and blah, blah, blah. So they went through all, and then they went to colleges where the students were, quote unquote, the high level smart students, and asked them the same question. And they pretty much gave the same answer as the so-called smart students in high school, right?
Right.
So they told them, like, yo, that's not actually accurate to what happens, right? So they found that they all were taught the same thing, but it was wrong, right? So they said, so let me show you what actually happens, right? So they took the model and they explained to them, hey, this is what happens when you move this, and then the earth does this, and then that's what makes seasons happen.
Right.
All right, cool. Students like, word, thank you. Now we know. So then they waited some months and they came back to the same students and asked them the same question again and said, yo, show us again what happens, right? So what happened was the students morphed what they knew.
I was going to say they mixed it.
Let me finish. To what they learned to be a fact later, right? They did not reject what they learned early. So they said they morphed the whole thing together, right?
Wow.
And so what the study was showing was who gets the brain earlier usually controls the brain, right? So whatever you teach somebody early in life, it's hard for them to ever reject what they learned earlier. And that's why it's the importance of teaching young people the right thing before they teach them. Because it's so when it deals with whatever you want to say, people get mad about religion, they get mad about politics. These sort of things are the things that they put into our children very young. And it's hard for them to reject it later in life.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true.
Put.
That's why they aim after kids. Yeah, absolutely.
Well put.
Okay, so we're gonna move on from that. Like I said, we doing a little quick thing. We want to tap into some different subject matters, right? So I had a before I go into the next thing, I'm just gonna say this, and it's like it's so random. You know what I'm saying? It don't even have nothing to do with what we're talking about. I just want to throw it out there. But I was thinking, how many cops get accidentally shot? Have you ever heard of a cop being accidentally shot?
Only the black ones.
No, not even them. That's not even them, fam.
No, I'm talking about from their own.
No, it don't happen. It don't happen enough for it to be a subject. Yeah. If you could tell me, I know a couple of examples. That's not worth talking about. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that why is it that cops don't accidentally get shot, but they're trained people, but they happen to always accidentally shoot people?
Yeah.
Because that's what trained people do. If you train, you know how to accidentally shoot.
No, because they not accidentally shooting nobody.
Of course not.
No, I get your point. It's just that it's sarcasm.
It's like, damn.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
All of these accidental shootings.
Yeah,
but see, that's on the public to call into the higher accountability. If they'll say that the police is a militarized force and they become even more militarized, you know what I'm saying, over the last 30 years, right? Okay, so then that means that majority of the people there, prior military, probably, we'll say since from Desert Storm and beyond, right? So that means that they know what combat is. They know what the worst combat is in a combat zone, to where you got, bombs, tanks, infantry, all that, right? But they can't get a semblance of it not being just as dangerous within our urban areas or whatever.
And it's less dangerous.
It's way less dangerous. Ain't no tanks in the hood, cuz. You know what I mean? So, and you around people who have their own cultural perspective of what being harmonious and peace is, even adhering to said laws. So it's like I said, the accountability is on the people to call the state into a higher accaccountability.
Now check this out. So
handle it the way it need to be handled.
When we had we remember we interviewed a couple of brothers from Gorilla Mainframe.
Right.
And shout out to them, because like I said, man, any people who willing to train black folks and be in the scope of white folks, hey, shout out to you.
Salute.
So I had told one of the brothers, I said, yo, man, because I know that they go to the city council meetings and all that kind of thing, where they get on the mic and they get to, you have the police chief there and all these other, quote unquote, powerful people in the city watching and listening. Right. So I said, yo, this is Thero's most thorough question ever, right? When it comes to this subject. I said, yo, ask them this one question and see how they respond to it. Just do it for me. I said, ask them, if you are a black citizen, right? And you're not doing nothing wrong, nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing wrong. Right. And a cop approaches you and tries to kill you, because this happens a lot. What are you to do?
Yeah.
I want them to ask the council and the chief of police that question, because you know they can't answer that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is next question. You cannot answer that damn question. What am I to do if I ain't done nothing wrong and a cop tries to kill me? What am I to do as a citizen?
Right.
We know they can't answer that question.
Yeah, let them kill you.
Yeah, that's the only thing they can say, right? Let them kill you.
That goes back to the slaveability pathology of the people. It's like, look, at some given point, you have to take into consideration like the whole voting thing. To me, if you vote, then that means you believe in the state. That means you believe in the state. That means you believe in the state systems. You believe in how they wish to operate with your sector of society and everything. And if history is already proven that it's going to be not in your favor, it's actually going to be at your devalue, your deworthing, then that means that we have to take in consideration that, okay, the state is not going to be able to handle some things. A lot of things when you interact with these so-called law enforcement, that shit is subjective. You know what I mean?
You just did it. Well, that was rhetorical, J-Mo. Everything ain't a real question. That was rhetorical. We know they're not gonna do nothing about that. So So let me move on. But yeah, you was the one, dog. If we had a bet on who would have to pay for dinner based off of that, you would have lost.
Tacos on me, cuz.
You would have lost that. You know what I'm saying?
My bag.
Okay, so let's move on real quick because we got a little time left. I'm watching the time. I know in my time it's 12:45 and y'all's time is 1:45 in Eastern time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go through a few other things. So we're going to talk about this WAP thing, right?
Oh, God.
And so because we being PG-13, we're not going to, you can look up what the acronym means on your own.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because we know that everything that we have an issue with, I'm talking about the problems that Black people have, is also attached to a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
There's no small problems. They're just extensions of bigger problems.
Yeah.
So when that song came out, I saw various ideas from different people on that sort of thing, right? So I want to build on that. But let me say this first, that we've always heard, especially when it comes to young Black men, when we're growing up, the one term that we're constantly bombarded with is dress for success, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are taught as young Black men that how you dress presents how people gonna treat you, right? So you're not gonna go into a job interview with some flip-flops on and some shorts in a Michael Jordan jersey. You know what I'm saying? If you're trying to actually get hired, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't care, yeah, you can wear that. So that's one of the things that people, stress is that, how you present yourself is how people are going to treat you. But it's weird that, and it's not weird, I'm speaking rhetorically, when people bring up stuff like what the WAP thing, right? So only when these so-called Black women are dressing like whores or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That they should be able to dress like a whore and then you still treat them like a queen, right? Yeah. But in no aspect of anybody else, if you dress like you from the hood, you're gonna get treated like you from anything. Right. Even Dave Chappelle made that. You ain't gonna you're not gonna put on a cop uniform and then when somebody run up to you thinking you the cops, like, man, ain't no damn cop. Like you right. Understand what you put on is going to attract a certain type of person to approach you and to think that you're something based off of how you dress, right? So when it came to this whole WAP thing, because there's arguments based off of, well, y'all, when men do it, y'all don't say nothing. Like, dude, Black male rappers been getting the business since gangster rap started. Right. They try to literally ban Luke now, right? They tried to ban them, like get them completely out the mix. So there's never been a NWA, whoever you want to pick. they always went after them too, right? That's a lie. When you say, well, when the men do it, don't nobody care. That's not true, right?
Yeah.
So the thing about it is that no one looks at Luke when Luke was doing something or whoever. No one confused that with empowerment, right? They never said, "Oh man, that's empowerment for the black men that they treating these black women this way. That's male empowerment."
Yeah.
Like no one saw those actions as empowering, right? Because we know that whatever Cardi B and whatever Meg the Stallion, whatever they do is attached to not only feminism, it's attached to homosexuality. So these groups are going to fight hard for that sort of thing to be. For example, Cardi B said, and I made a status about it. She said,
I guess I just don't feel like caring about this shit. It's like, yo, man, what you gonna do then?
Hey, somebody need to be muted.
What are we gonna be doing? Oh,
somebody needs to be muted. Yeah. So that straight stripped my train of thought.
you said you put up a status of Cardi B.
Yeah. She said that, well, y'all don't be streaming the conscious black female rappers, that y'all don't pay attention. So my answer to that was that's not true. But what happens is the number of people who do stream them, it's reflective of the amount of quote unquote conscious people that exist in our so-called community.
The minority.
Right.
Yeah, there are the minority. Yeah, like J-Mo said, they're the minority. So, but that's not absolutely, you know what I mean? Because I listen to some ignorant stuff too. I just don't promote it. Right. So she's absolutely incorrect. So so what I said was there is a more major market for junk food, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're selling bad food, you're gonna get more attention and more money than somebody who's selling healthy food. Right. Because we live in this European society where anything degenerate, vulgar, and that sort of thing is gonna always have more of a market than the good side, right? There's a major market for pedophilia, sex trafficking, anything you could name up. But that doesn't mean because there's a major market for it that it's proper or that it's good. You get what I'm saying? Like how you gonna make those two type of things synonymous? That's the absolutely wrong way of looking at it. But y'all can go ahead and chime in, man.
Yeah. Go ahead, J-Mo. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think in the whole aspect of that, with the severe lack of accountability and the embracement of it, you know, being seen as something that's something to be upheld toward, you know, womanhood or sisterhood, whatever. Like when Cardi B first dropped, I didn't listen to none of her stuff, and then I saw my nieces dancing and singing the lyrics, and I knew, you know, the bloody shoes and all that stuff. So I'm like, all right, let me look and see what they sing about, and it floored me. Like you know, some women rappers, the mainstreamers, would dabble into the horrorism as far as the imagery and everything, but they weren't actually a part of it like that. You know what I'm saying? It was just they was using sexuality as their way to get into the door or whatever. Now sexuality is, or horrorism, an aspect of sexuality, that's the norm. That has taken over to be what it means to be a female MC. How raunchy can you be? How raunchy can you stay? And at what level are you a control, you know, this boss bee or whatever they say, simply because they're flexing their right to act as if they're some hood cat or something like that.
Right. So first I want to tell people, man, like what Thurl said, the idea that, well, y'all got away with it. If anybody thinks we got away with it, look up C. Dolores Tucker. Yep. If you believe that there was no pushback from the hip hop community, just look up that name and then you'll stop saying that. Second thing is about, you know, dressing like a whore. You know, you get a lot of pushback from that, you know, and then even from the pro-black community about, you know, well, you know, we ain't wear shirts in Africa, you know, they walk around naked, and, you know, so what's the difference? You know, I'm not going to dive deep into that because I know we don't have enough time to go down that road. But what I will say is this. Yeah, that's heavy. But what I will say is
and we got 4 minutes. We have 4 minutes.
Okay. Everything has a uniform, right? So, and the reason why is because the brain makes everything simple. You can't judge everything based on the details every time you go outside. You have to make quick decisions. So everything has a uniform, all right? And if you're wearing a whore's uniform, that's how you're going to get treated more often than not. And the same thing with a man is how you present yourself. That's how you're going to get treated. And then there's people that'll tell you that song, WAP, WAP, or WAP, or whatever, that say, if you don't like it, don't listen to it. If you don't like it, you don't got to let your kids listen to it. Well, news for you. My daughter is 8 years old. When she was 7 years old, she knew who Cardi B was. I never told her. We don't listen to that. How do you know who she is? Well, other parents find out. They play it around their kids play it around my kids. So now it's a problem for everybody, just like COVID, right? Like now it's my responsibility to make sure you don't get it. This is the same thing. It's a mental contagion. So it's a problem because now I would have to explain to my daughter why you can't listen to that. Why you can't, because if you go on YouTube, it's all out. It ain't like it used to be where you had to stay up till midnight to catch those videos. Now all you got to do is push the button and it's right there. You know what I'm saying? And then the last thing I'll say for conserving time is when Cardi says, y'all don't stream those other things, whatever, that means you're saying it's all cool because it's about money. Right. I can do whatever I want. So it's all okay. So how about this, Cardi? How about next time you come out to the stage and you come to Philly, I'ma stalk you. And I'm gonna run up in your house and all. And then when you ask me why, well, you ain't paid no attention when I was just a regular fan. So I figured I'd stalk you and invade your privacy. Like, so is it okay because I wanted this? That makes it okay to step over the line? Yeah. No, it never does. You have to, and again, that's what you said about stepping back and thinking for yourself. Stepping back and checking your base and your foundation. Does it coincide with what I believe in and my base and my foundation? If it does not, I'm not gonna make no excuses for this.
If your base and foundation holds integrity to begin with, though.
Yeah, that's what this is all about with RBG, having some of that.
Is somebody on here?
Yeah,
I raised my hand, Sister Taylor right here. Yeah, okay. I think if I can just say something real quick as a sister. Okay. I think we are off our game. I'm just gonna say, if we really about this movement, if we really about it, we're holding ourselves accountable.
Sorry, sister, could you turn your volume down just a little bit? It's causing a little bit of distortion.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
perfect.
That's a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just feeling like we're off of our game. I think holding Cardi B accountable is one thing, but will we hold ourselves accountable? If we really about showing the other side and she's uneducated, we were to say this is what we should be doing. And now we've got Cardi with a Democratic Party thinking that she should be talked about too, rather than us. Those that are in liberation, those that have fought, those have been changing society and feeding people and changing the education system so they have the breakfast program. I think we need to stop looking at her and call ourselves out and say we need to be held accountable for even allowing her to have that much power. We should have been. I believe it's up to us. And if as me as a teacher who always had to go up against the music, I said, your parent didn't do it, but guess what? I'm the parent now. Right? It used to take a village to raise a child. Now we holding people who don't know no better, like Cardi B, holding her accountable when it should have been us teaching her, like Ahmed Obafemi did with the grassroots Malcolm X grassroots movement and RNA. We go to those with Tupac. We are off our game. And as someone that's now, I'm 52 years old, right? And I can do freestyle and get the boys that's supposed to be in high school, even though I'm in middle school, to talk to me because I first let them know I'm with you, I'm your family. And then I'm a reprimand you. I don't care if you're 6'4" or not. I think it's about us taking that back. And now with Cardi B being utilized as a presidential candidate for, what's his name, Biden, she's got the ear because we've allowed her to be more important and valuable in being politically educating a president candidate than us. And I think that goes back to where we stepping up on our own accountability for our young girls. Like I feel like I need to talk to the sister, but also for our young brothers. And we can't look at them. We really just need to find a way we get to those influential people, just like Harry Belafonte did that in paying for Martin Luther King to go place to place, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So do we have time to tackle that? Like a real quick comment?
Yeah, let's see. We have man, my math is crazy right now. We have
Yeah,
like about
15.
about 14 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're gonna do some solutions. So yeah, just try to make it as quick as
All right,
possible.
so I'm glad. Okay, so we're doing solutions. All right, so let me tie that together real quick because I made this point on an earlier podcast, on an earlier radio show. I always relate this to my business class. I have, so they teach you in business that there's a thing called the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? And the SWOT analysis, it teaches you internal and external. So the strengths is internal, the weaknesses are internal. Then there's opportunities, which are external, and then there's threats, which are external. So whenever you're sitting down and you do your SWOT analysis at the end of the financial year, you're talking about what's the problem internally and what's my problems externally. And the same thing with solutions that are internal and external. So when we talk about Cardi, that's an external issue. We're talking about what's going on around us and we're trying to tackle that. But then you can also talk about our internal issues where you talk about what's going on with us and the way we could do better. And we could do both at the same time. I do agree that we need to make sure we take self-accountability before we start talking about some entertainer. But it's almost impossible to not speak on it because we're going to be drowned out by somebody that can put a video on YouTube and it goes for 1 billion views. Right. So inevitable, we're going to have to, talk about it, bring it up. And then by doing this, that's exactly what we're doing. We're squashing it and trying to make sure we're replacing her voice with our voices. And this is the only way we could do it. She got YouTube. She got the ears of masses. Right now, what we on Zoom.
And she got the Jews.
We're going to,
She got the Jews.
Yeah, she got it all. And we're fighting against that in our smallest of platforms in a way that we've never had that issue before. Well, we had it, but not to this scale. So unfortunately, it is a problem and we have to address it externally, but we can definitely take some internal looks as well. So I agree.
Okay. All right. Is this still on?
I think she muted.
Okay. So I guess we can start talking about, to put a bow on this is to start talking about what we see as some viable solutions, stuff that's tangible. And, as far, it could even be just a way of thinking, because we have to understand that the hands are a part of the mind, right? So is your butt, basically, if you're going to get up off of it. So everything is based off of your brain first. And so your brain is going to dictate how your legs and your arms move and what they spend the most time doing and these sort of things. So, it could be any sort of thing. So the first thing we're going to bring up, because I know we're all going to agree on this because we talk about it all the time, is that the number one goal has to be separation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Facts.
That has to be the number one goal. Nothing else. If anybody who, we say the litmus test, right? So the litmus test is, how do you feel about homosexuality, interracial dating, and how do you feel about integration, right? So those three things will weed out 99% of the people. Follow what I'm saying? So we have to have, as Neely Fuller, we have to have a code system. That has to be a solution that we have to pick. You can't have people working together with different ideas on how to fix things. How does that work? That's impossible. If you put it this way, if you imagine Voltron, right? The line Voltron version. Right. So imagine everybody who who running the arms, legs, and all that. They all doing different things. Right. So it's like, yo, man, I don't have to listen to you. Yeah. I want to see Voltron win a battle that way. Like, it ain't gonna happen. You get what I'm saying? Right. So so I would say that and just say, yeah, separation would be the number one. But y'all can elaborate on that.
So what you spoke about is something that actually happens in your body. I don't know if they tell you. Anybody know about what's called alien hand syndrome? When your hand just start doing something that you ain't tell it to do, or Tourette syndrome that happens in the body and the mind and the speaking as well. When your body is at odds with itself, they call that a disease, and they give you drugs for it. So to kind of line up what you're saying is absolutely true. You got to try to make sure that your vision aligns, you know, and your vision is the overall goal that you're trying to face. And this is that you're trying to see through. And that's what I always said, that every opportunity we get, we should always talk about. And this is the centennial of Marcus Garvey, right? So the whole point is we should always be talking about separation. I was on a Zoom call last night. It was a podcast, the first one of my crew. We were talking about music, but at the end of the podcast, we turned it off, turned the recording off. We just started talking about Black people live, you know, just stuff like that. And it's always shocking to me when I talk to my people about separation, how in the beginning you get that little bit of pushback. They give you that side eye. But by the time you 5 minutes into, or maybe 30 seconds into your explanation, they all start nodding their head like, yeah, like that's really the only way. So what I really, truly, and honestly believe is that the more and more we talk about it, the more and more people are going to see that that is the ultimate logical conclusion. And there is no other way. It ain't voting. It ain't none of that. The ultimate logical conclusion is to find a place that we can go, and then start, you know, our process over again. But it cannot happen. We're not going to do that here. This is impossible. So we need to keep making sure we push that button of separation every time a conversation comes up about our people.
Agreed. Because because everything that we talked about in the aspect of the degradation of our people over here, this is a question I always ask. At what point have we seen a degradation cure and restore itself? We haven't. So if it's gotten this bad with our people now, imagine how it's going to be 20 to 30 to 40 years from now. It's time to pack up, you know, with the centennial and actually, you know what I'm saying, be some Garveys and head on to Africa. It's time to go. After 100 years, it's time to go.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's a great point, because what's sad is 100 years later, Black folks are not even trying to do the blueprint that Garvey set for us.
Right.
The blueprint was getting up out of here.
Yeah.
Right.
And he told even the people like you and not like us on here that, hey man, don't worry about, you can't take care of everybody. So handle your business. You can't worry about them. And they're not supposed to go with you. The people who fight against it, and you know the analogy we always use, and shout out, I always got to throw a shout out to Brother Holip and what they're trying to do is that with the BAIO, I believe it's called.
BAIO.
That when it comes, the difference between Black folks and Jews, like there's many differences, but one of the major differences is that they have a homeland, even though they stole it. You know what I'm saying? They have a homeland to go to if they feel fit to go there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the sort of mentality that Black folks have to have over here. We have to build something outside of here, separate from here. And it doesn't mean everybody got to go. It just means that that's an option for you. You're a naturalized citizen of that other area if you want to go there. That's what we have to build towards, because again, there's never, you find me a situation where someone is in an abusive relationship where anybody with common sense would encourage you to stay in that abusive relationship. The first thing they'll tell you is to get the hell away from that person. That's number one. The second thing they'll tell you is get you a gun. If he mess with you or whatever, kill him. Mm-hmm. Like those are the natural, logical answers people give to you. But when it comes to Black America, they feel like they can stay in a bad relationship and fix it. You won't do that in any other aspect. I'm talking about business, you will get the hell out.
Right.
Personal, you will get the hell out. It don't matter what kind of relationship it is. If it's bad, you're going to flee.
Right.
If you're smart. You follow what I'm saying? So that has to be part of what we do. The end goal for the future generations is we have to create something for them that they can go to escape this, right? Because once they leave it, they ain't gonna want to come back anyway. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right.
And here's the thing: you can't protect nothing that's not yours. Right. Period. So you know, I don't know if I want to go there. Maybe let me think. Give me a nanosecond. Because I was about to say something, you know what I mean? Because like, okay, I'll say it anyway. And I know that, you know, certain things step on people's toes, but it is what it is. We're in a harsh society, and it takes harsh ideology and pissing certain people off to fix things. So whenever you hear people say, you Black men, do you feel safe with Black men or Black men protecting you? You hear these sort of things, right? So the first aspect of protection is it has to be yours, right?
Right.
I can't protect nothing that's not mine. Let me see. Okay, anyway. So for me to be able to properly protect something, I have to have the rights and the encouragement to do it.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Or if you use the analogy of the same black people who say that will be like, man, why are you over there fighting for something that ain't yours? If you
Right.
go to another country fighting, right? So when it comes to our relationships, we have to have an understanding that I'm protecting something that is mine, period.
Right.
Follow what I'm saying? So
Right.
you can't say you need to protect me, but then I can do what the hell I want to do. It don't work that way.
Right.
You can't do what you want to do and then be under my protection at the same time. I have to have some sort of authority to be able to even properly protect something that is mine, right?
The community has to be under our guidance on all grounds, and the state must be in compliance with what we deem to be healthy for our community. And if not,
it don't work. You cannot have anarchists and structure at the same time. It don't work like that. Yeah. So whenever people say that, they have to recognize that, are you willing to fall under certain rules and standards? Yeah. That's the whole thing. You got to create codes, which goes back to what we said, what Nelly Fuller said. Everything is code based. Nobody, there is not nobody who's running things who didn't have a code system to take over what they did or do what they're doing. Right. That's why when you say, why do Asians come over here? You don't even hear about them every 4 years when it's time to vote, because they have a code system. They already know what the hell they're going to do. All these other races know what they're going to do. They understand. That's why I say, even with these white feminists, you never hear them say anything negative, quote unquote, about white men. They say men are evil. Right. They still fall under a code of not bad talking. And like I said, going to the highest mountain with a bullhorn, talking down on their men, because what do they understand? No matter what it is, no matter how much beef I got with my man, which they do, all women have beef. There's certain things they don't like about their man. But what they understand is that's their first and last line of protection. Right. I have to have them in place so that these other people won't mess with me. Right. So you have to understand that. That is that, and that is nature. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can observe nature and see that everything understands you gotta have your protection there. You can't tell your protection they ain't ish. You know what I'm saying? You can't do that. It don't work that way.
And you can't have selective protection, which is like, protect me this way, but not that time. Exactly. Like, so I'm not going to reveal who this was, but I'll just say, I know I had personal experience with it. Where like, you get this man out my house, that deal. All right, I'll come over there and do that. Get him out. 3 days later, he back. You expect me to keep doing this? You know, like if I tell you, I'll take him out and this is what you do from now on. Like, this is how because I'm a man, this is how you keep him out. And then 3 days later, he back. How long am I going to keep doing this? Whenever you mad, I got to come. But what about when I'm mad?
I'm mad right now because I was looking at some of my notes and I never got to really look at this chat, man. I wish I would have been looking.
How you ain't look at the chat, bro?
I mean,
I can't even see it.
I wanted to actually, answer some of this stuff, because we're not saying, here's the thing, man. When you're a righteous African, you know you don't have all the answers. And you know that it takes other Black people to help you get some answers that you can't get on your own. So I never speak absolutely. I'm saying, yo, this is how I see things. Somebody can correct me. That's a scientific method. If you come with something better, I'm going to ride with that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm kind of upset that I didn't look at this and kind of like, answer some of these. So anyway, man, I guess we can wrap it up. Mm-hmm. It's 12:45, and so last thoughts, man. As Black people, we really enjoyed this build, and we're honored to have any sort of connection to Marcus Garvey and what he represented in the 100 years since he been here and did what he did. So respect to that. And do y'all have any final words?
That's it, man. It looks like we about to cut off, so I just want to say respect to Marcus Garvey, peace and Black power.
Yeah, and we'll be checking out the other people, man. We want to see what y'all got too. So peace, Black power.
Black power.
Everybody unmute. Give that Field African Radio some love. Make some noise. Make some noise. Unmute. Unmute. Make some noise. Make some noise. Make some noise.
Noise.
I did that. You did it, Miss Holly. You did it.
What's going on with it?
Yo, Thorough, what up?
Hey, what's up, man?
All right.
Hey, you got the youth watching.
Already.
Shout out Thorough, man. That was dope, man. Shout out to the brothers.
Hey, man, respect. Look at the youth, man. I'm just happy the youth heard something I said.
That's what's up, man.
Hey, I haven't bought that CD yet. I'm about to buy it, man. That new CD y'all made.
Alias and Thorough sound like though. What's up with them?
Say that again.
Why you and Thorough sound so much alike?
This is Thorough.
Oh, see, I thought that was Alias. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you want to hear some music, I'm finna be dropping. I'll be playing Church in the Field in the Black Room right now. So head over to the Black Room. Field African Radio, man. Y'all brung it, man. I knew y'all would.
Y'all killed it. Y'all killed it.
Thank you.
Respect.
Mr. Chambers.
We about to go to the Black Room.
All right. Peace.
You're my best teacher. Mr. Chambers, I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Come over to the Black Room.
Doc Maki. Buck front, yeah. Shot. Intro to O. And my dude, that Timbuktu to Ave. Renew your passion, shun the condition. And not the who, what, when, where, and you are from. At last. Put the higher